Today we're going to delve a little more deeply into some of the elements and explain how they're used. We will be using film terminology, talking about movies, just because it applies to both. And the chances of you seeing a movie I refer to as far as reading a play are probably greater than you've seen a film. So anyway, it does hold up as an analogy. Well, let's talk about what we see. Spectacle is all that we see. So when we look at a movie, of course, within the frame or the mise-en-scène, which is the totality of the frame, of all the lighting and the set and the camera and all those visual elements at any given one time in the film, we see, of course, a set of some kind. It can be on location, it can be animated, it can be surreal, it can be real, or built in a studio. So basically there's that to look at. There's also lighting, there's special effects, and the camera moves and the actors move in film. And don't forget that dance is also a part of spectacle, so all musicals use dance as a major element. So how can spectacle be used? Well, let's talk a little bit about the camera and how the camera is utilized. So we have some directors who like to use the camera moving all the time, and there's a lot of dynamic camera movement, and we're pretty familiar with that in this digital age because it's fairly easy to do. You have the digital environment that can be basically created in a computer, and then a virtual camera can do anything it wants. It can fly, swoop, hover, go anywhere. Another way that you can utilize a camera and film is to basically keep it stable. So let's imagine this. Imagine we have a big wagon wheel in front of the frame, and the frame is stationary, the camera's not moving, but the wagon wheel moves, and it moves out of the way to reveal in the background a saloon. A medium shot, let's say, maybe even a medium long shot. And through those double doors of the saloon steps our hero. He walks up into the camera frame. Remember, the camera hasn't moved, it hasn't been taken down or set up or anything like that. And he looks off to the left of the frame and waves at somebody. Well, then somebody comes into the frame and they have a conversation, and then they leave and he looks to the right of the frame and he sees somebody and they have a conversation, and the person again steps out of the frame. Well, we haven't moved the camera at all, okay? We have kept it stationary, and this is a directorial choice. This type of film work tends to emphasize the actors more and the close-ups more than moving the camera constantly. So spectacle is a very big part of film and theater. So costumes would come under that, makeup would come under that. We've already mentioned special effects. Another way we see spectacle used sometime in movies is we see like a wash, like a sepia wash, maybe sort of a general color over maybe a western, and maybe this gives it an older kind of feeling, like the Old West, you know, sort of burned and brown and all of that. There's also this sort of black blue steel look that we see actually in science fiction movies. It started about 20 years ago. And for example, the 3 Batman movies by Christopher Nolan, they all contain this sort of noirish blue, all right, that at night especially, and it gives it a sort of a dark, cold feeling, which would fit perfectly with a crime film, the darkness and the coldness in humanity of the cityscape. So there we have that. So another element that we see a lot, or hear a lot actually, is music, and that's all that is heard. And music is used, basically we are used to music being a score, which, you know, if you really think about it, doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense, because where most movies are shot or where they take place, there would be no music whatsoever in the middle of a desert or in the middle of an ocean or out in space where there's supposedly no sound. But we've accepted that, and that's called a convention. That's a rule that we've accepted, and we buy it, and we don't question the music score. Well, one way a music score functions is dynamically, all right? So, you know, 2 people are fighting and the music is mirroring their blows almost, punch for punch. And so somebody's running through the jungle and the music is following their footsteps rapidly and almost imitating those footsteps. That's a dynamic film score. But another type of score is the sort of the mood piece or the sound floor. And this first really came about in the films of John Carpenter, especially Halloween, where it's just one chord, maybe for 2 minutes, like boom, and then it changes, maybe oh. And so what this chord is doing, it's basically creating tone and mood. It's not interested in, mirroring the action of the film. So that's the way music is used. Of course, there's actual sound effects, and we call them Foley effects. They're created artificially, of course, for the sound effects in the film. And that would, of course, come under sound. But there's one other, or music, there's one other aspect of this that's often overlooked, and it is the musical components of an actor's voice, all right? Timbre and pitch and tone, and those create emotional feelings. So if we think about Jack Nicholson's voice, we might think of a snide, kind of a smart-alecky voice, and that's appropriate, okay? He's cast in those types of roles. And think of all of the voice talent in CGI cartoons and regular cartoons. Those actors are chosen for the unique qualities of their voices. So we have covered music and we have covered spectacle, and next time we will come back and talk about diction, which is actually the way language is used, okay? The vocabulary, the words, all those elements. And we'll see you next time, and thanks for listening.